Would you like to learn how to remove some of that negative, funky energy with people in your life? In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you one specific strategy that really helped me gain a deeper connection with other people. This is Simon Lovell bringing you growth in under 10 minutes. Stay tuned. So in the video that I'm about to share with you from an event that I ran in San Diego, it's a conversation between myself and someone who's actually now a friend, but at the time they were someone who I was looking to engage in with work. But whether that's work or someone in your personal life, this is a really important video because it really opened my eyes to what's really possible to gain deeper levels of connection. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and also the bell to make sure that you get regular updates. And here we go onto the video, which is right behind me.
Definitely. I'll try to keep this concise. So the referral that Simon, or the way that I got referred to Simon was actually, I got referred to your ex-girlfriend, not to Simon directly. So that's how we met. The way that referral came about was from one person, and this was a very low bid job. It was a $600 job, which is not proper on my bidding back then. And it was very time intensive. The client was really picky, and it was just not going how I would like all of my projects to go. And I'm the kind of person that when I start something, I usually try to start things that I know that I'm gonna like, so that I know that I'll stick them out and finish them. Regardless of whether I liked it or not, I stuck it out and I finished the project for her. And I didn't actually really like what I put out because it took so much chopping and cutting and editing and to even get a sentence together from her. And she ended up loving it. She was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, this is great. And I mean, it is pretty good. If I were to show you what we started with, I'm sure most of you would be like, this is amazing, because I started with not very good stuff to work with. And so nevertheless, I finished the job out. I turned it into her. I made a few changes, and we kind of separated, went different ways. But she gave me a bunch of referrals. I mean, she's giving me probably tens of thousands of dollars worth of referrals from that one $600 job. And one of those was to Mina, and that's how me and Simon met. And we, like I was saying earlier, we had 6 meetings about Simon's projects and what he wanted to do before we even came to an agreement on any pricing or what those projects were going to be. And one of those meetings, I think it was the 4th meeting, we met up for lunch, and I had just quit my job maybe 2 months earlier, and I had already had a couple months of freedom, right? Complete freedom, where I was my own boss and I could kind of do whatever I wanted with my time and structure that however I wanted. And it was really liberating for me and something that I really enjoyed. And from the talks that we had, I had assumed and made an assumption and had fears around Simon wanting to essentially employ me and not work with me and be my boss and kind of take up all of my time, not to be able to work with any other clients. And I got really defensive about that, and my energy translated that through our lunch meeting. And Simon made a very prompt decision, which you can talk about and I can kind of elaborate on if you'd like.
Yeah, so we'd had lunch. It was at the lot in La Jolla, and the conversation was going okay, but I felt a difference in that meeting between the last one. Ryan went to the restroom. I have to say restroom now, not toilet. Where is she? Cool. See, I'm getting good with the American lingo. And I really wanted to work with Ryan, but I won't do that if it doesn't feel right. So I left the meeting, and then I was in the car, and I was just like, I don't know. I don't know that I want to hire him now. So again, what's the theme coming up? In that moment, I have a what? Decision. Do I take that for for what it was and be like, that's it, I'm not going to do that? Or am I do I want to give it the benefit of the doubt? And so in that moment, I felt this tension inside of me of I've got to speak to him, but I don't want to. but I didn't overthink it. 5-second rule, right? Didn't overthink it. I picked up the phone. I was just like, hey, called him, and I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, and so I also had a decision to make in that moment, because I could have just done what a lot of us, would maybe do in the past without some of the training that we've had on mindset and acting on your gut and actually being transparent and vulnerable. And so I could have just been like, nothing's up, like I'm just having a bad day or whatever. And so I actually told him and explained to him the fears that I had around the beliefs that I had with the work that he wanted me to do, which were all irrational and not true. And he kind of reassured me that he didn't want me to work for him, he wanted me to work with him, and that he would respect my time and all my other clients and would take any time that I could give him. And so that was kind of all I needed to hear. And I didn't really need to go into like that really closed off defensive mode when I could have just asked those questions. And if I would have addressed them at our meeting, like I will now in the future and from that point on, that would have been eliminated immediately, and my energy would have recentered, and I would have been back in like the flow state, like everything that we were.
Now, where were you in your life at this point? In terms of stress, in terms of...
Definitely. So I thought things were going great. I had just quit my job. I was super stoked. I had a decent amount of clients. I was making more than enough money to pay all my bills and had no stress necessarily monetarily. I did have a lot of stress in my relationship at that time, which we actually talked about a lot, and he's kind of helped me through. And I wasn't nearly as mentally developed as I am now, and it played a huge role in the conversations that we had. And so going through that, and even his vulnerability to open up and call me and address that like immediately, it was like within less than 5 minutes of us leaving the meeting, made me even want to work with him more. And I was.
So now that you've seen that video, have a think about the areas of your life where you can go into courage and stand tall, stand proud, and be the first person to have and initiate that conversation, which comes from that feeling like something needs to be resolved. And so in that situation, I picked up the phone, I called Ryan, and there was a situation just yesterday where I felt a conversation started to pivot because of my own trigger. And then what happened was I reached out to that person on Facebook, I removed the kind of negative energy link, and we just had a really fun conversation about it. And so if you start to implement this, it's extremely powerful for deeper levels of connection, as I've mentioned, but also just training that muscle of vulnerability and also power within yourself. It's extremely helpful to other people because they start to understand themselves that there's just so much strength in being able to speak about what's really going on. So I would love to know from you in the comments, how did this video help, and what specific situation has happened recently where you could maybe have handled that situation differently, and what are you going to do moving forward? Post into the comments below, and I'll see you in another video. Take it easy.